I'll be changing the CV joint boot on my Mercedes E430 today, and it's a split boot. And what I did was, you can either buy the Mercedes brand, which is I think about 80 bucks, and you'd have to pull the rotor and stuff. This is a split boot. It comes in two pieces, and this model is 614632. And what I did was I measured the diameter of the axle here, and it came in at 1.09, and that one has handles a diameter of like 1.06, so it's negligible. But you can see the boot is split here, and it is clicking, but it's not bad. It just started happening. There's still a good amount of grease in there, so I think I can salvage it. Now, it happened to me on another car, and I changed the boot, and I got another 70,000 miles, and it was still running when I sold the car, so I'm not too concerned about it. Yeah, it's not ideal, I get that, but I'm just keeping it on the road. Keeping it on the road. So here's the stuff you'll need. Of course, you'll need the split boot. I've got 2 cans of brake cleaner. This one's almost empty because I did it on the other side, but usually I won't mind expending a whole can. Some hand tools, wire cutters, pliers, and the screwdrivers mainly for when you put the bands on. So safety glasses, obviously, especially when you're spraying the brake cleaner. A couple of disposable gloves. I recommend some hand cleaner so when you're done, because this stuff is particularly hard to get off your hands. I mean, my hands are still dirty just getting off the tire, and plenty of rags. So let's get started. The kit comes with 2 things of what they call Solvent Weld, which is basically super glue, a collar adapter that goes on the small end, and these 2 cone looking things. What they do is they'll mesh together, and they'll go around the small end of the shaft and create a grease tight seal to keep the grease from leaking out the end. And the 2 halves, obviously, and instructions. I followed the instructions for the other side, but I found that they weren't quite as helpful. The sequence was off a little bit, but I do highly recommend that the first thing you do is you glue one half together, because it takes an hour for the glue to set, to cure. That's what they recommend, and then we'll go from there. Also, what I had to do was, this is too long, so I have to cut it. I have to cut this bottom portion here off because it's too long. Otherwise, everything else works fine. Now, I also recommend that if you have a compressor or something with an air blower, to have that handy for when you actually clean out the bearings. You can see here's where I repaired the other side with the split boot, and it looks like it's still intact. Looks pretty good. It's been going for about 3-4 days now, so it's good enough to keep you on the road. Now, for those of you out there concerned about safety, I have 3 hard points. I've got the jack holding the car up, I've got a floor jack holding the car up, and I've also got a jack stand as a backup in case the floor jack and the car jack falls down. So be safe. Definitely be safe. Okay, I've cut the excess off the bottom here, and they recommend you practice assembling the halves together, and just to make sure everything fits, which is a good idea, to learn which side goes on top and which side feeds into it. But just like that there. And then what you want to do is you want to glue just one side, and you want to really load it up using the Solvent Weld here, and I'll show you how much I actually use. I actually fill up this whole cavity. You might not see it swimming in there. They give it 2 tubes, so don't extend with it, because you don't want this coming off while you're riding. You want to glue it on there. And so switch out, it's okay. Try to use the camera. Do it here. Alright, so just make sure there are any holes in there, it's all filled up. And you want to, you might get extra tubes of super glue just in case. Like I said, you don't want this stuff to run out, or you want this to come apart while you're driving. Alright, okay, so I got enough in there, and I'm just going to snap just half of it. Just snap half of it together. And then it's got to set for an hour. Cheers and you're good. Sit there. A little spot in there. Alright, so make sure the seam is nice and closed. And the glue's pushing out, so that's one foot on one side now. You can start taking the old boot off. Okay, this is when you really want to glove up. And I put the emergency brake on, and I put the gear in neutral so I could spin the hub. And what you want to do is you want to locate this band here, get a small tip screwdriver, and just get under there and pop that band up. There we go. It comes right out. And to get the boot off, what I do is I just use a pair of wire cutters, wire snips, whatever you want to call them. And I just cut it like a pair of pliers. Cut it like a wire. It's gonna be hard to video this, but you do the same thing to the inner piece. So I'll get it all cut out and show you what it looks like on the inside. Yeah, see, I told you needed to glove up. Here's what the boot looks like. It would go like that, but there's still a good amount of grease in there, so I'm pretty confident that it isn't beyond hope. Let's put it that way. There's still, like I said, a good amount of grease on there. Obviously, I'm going to clean all that off. Get a good shot there. So you want to wipe it down with a dry rag first, and then line some rags down underneath and just spray the living daylights out of it with brake cleaner and rotate the shaft. And then when you're done with that, you want to blow air in there and then hit it with a little bit of the brake cleaner. Just make sure you get all the grease, all the grime. The grease, remnant grease, not so much, but you want to get the grime out of there because it acts like an abrasive and can wear out the bearings even more. But anything is better than what it is now. That's about as clean as I'm going to get it without taking it apart. I just made sure that I got all the grime and stuff out of there and blew it out with the air. Now, I realize that the clicking is from, I know that the clicking is from the bearings and not the boot, but the boot is the clicking is a telltale sign that your boot has ripped and your grease has leaked out, and that's why your bearings are clicking. But I understand, I get it, that it's not the boot that's making that noise. There's not a whole lot of play at all. I mean, I would consider that normal wear for bearings. Because they're not perfect. You don't want them too rigid. You want some room for the bearings to move around. So I'm not concerned about that much play at all. So here's where the instructions depart from what I learned doing the other side. They want you to pack the bearings now and then slip the boot on after you pack the bearings. The problem is if you get any of the grease on the boot in the seam, it's not going to seal right there. So my recommendation at this point is to put the boot on, glue the other half of it, and then push the boot out of the way, either tie it back or tape it back, and then pack the bearings. And that way you don't get any grease in the seams of the boot. So let me do that.